With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do? I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Welcome back, True Crime Army. I am your host, Margot, and this is Military Murder, a show where I tell you true crime stories involving military members and veterans, all with one goal in mind, to remind you to remain vigilant always. As we head into this holiday season, I am wishing you all a happy holiday. But I'm also highly aware that the holiday season can be the hardest for those who serve. Maybe they are a little bit far from home. Maybe they are separated from their loved ones. Or maybe the holidays bring back memories of those who we lost. That said, the holidays is also a season where people tend to overindulge in the spirits. And I'm not talking about the Holy Spirit here, y'all. I'm talking about alcohol. So please, 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 just take this reminder to heart. If you drink, please do not drive. Make a plan ahead of time. Take an Uber. Designate the pregnant lady as the DD. Do not name the Marine who always drinks and ends up on the bathroom floor as the DD. No matter how much he swears he's changed and he ain't drinking this holiday season, you know that's a lie. All right, now, today I am bringing you the top headlines involving military members and veterans. Next week, I will be back with one of the craziest Air Force stories I have ever heard. So be sure to follow the show so that you never miss the next episode drop. With that, let's get into these heartbreaking headlines. I have cases from the Air Force, I have veteran cases, I have cold cases, I have all types of cases for us today. So with that, let's dig in.
Military murder is an independent project and is not endorsed by the Department of Defense or any military component. The views expressed are those of the host. The content of this podcast is not meant to be legal or medical advice. Warning, this episode contains graphic details of murder and is not suitable for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
An emergency weapon suspension is now rocking the U.S. military. The Air Force Global Strike Command pulling its standard issue sidearm, that Sig Sauer M18 pistol, after a security forces airman was killed on base.
Tonight, the first lawsuit has been filed against a suspended Fort Hood Army doctor accused of secretly recording women during medical exams.
We're getting our first look at the man accused of driving drunk and fatally striking a La Mesa police officer.
Tonight, we know the identity of the airman from Whiteman Air Force Base accused of shooting and killing his neighbor before taking his own life.
Communities are left dumbfounded by the deaths of 3 people in the Miami Valley, and investigators continue to try and piece together the link between the 3 dead and Wright-Patterson.
Our first story is out of California. On October 20th, 2025, 25-year-old officer Lauren Craven of the La Mesa Police Department pulled over her patrol vehicle on Interstate 8 near Waring Road. She was there after responding to a separate rollover collision. While she was out of her cruiser rendering aid to victims of the crash, a vehicle driven by Antonio Alcantar, a 38-year-old U.S. Navy Master-at-Arms with 11 years of service, plowed into the scene at freeway speed, struck the officer and the crash victims, and killed the officer immediately. Investigators allege that Alcantar had been drinking earlier that night, first at a bar, then at a restaurant, and that his BAC, or blood alcohol level, measured at 0.16%, which is about twice the legal limit in California. Video footage from a Tesla driving behind Alcantar showed that the man failed to brake, failed to change lanes, and never once attempted to yield when approaching the crash scene, even though Officer Craven's emergency lights were visible. At his arraignment in San Diego Superior Court, Alcantar pled not guilty to 1 count of murder and 1 count of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. Originally, his bail was set at $110,000, which he initially posted. But the prosecution argued that he posed a danger to the public given his training as a military police officer. The judge agreed and raised his bail to $1 million. The prosecution highlighted that Alcantar's role as a master-at-arms, a military police role that includes law enforcement training, made his decision to drive intoxicated especially egregious. As Deputy District Attorney Spencer Sharp said, quote, "This is a military cop charged with murder. In 2025, there is no excuse for this," end quote. Officer Craven was a young and promising law enforcement professional. She was simply doing what she'd been trained for, aiding crash victims on the interstate. Her death and the way that it occurred has shaken the department, the military community, and everyone who believed that she would be there tomorrow. And the thing about this case is that on that night, more than one person lost their life. 19-year-old Devontae Morris, the young man in the car that Officer Craven had stopped to help, he also died in the crash. But as of this recording, charges related to his death are still pending further investigation. So it's probably unclear whether he was already dead or gonna die because of the original crash or what. Officer Craven is survived by her family, friends, and the community she served. I am sure that we will be hearing more about this case as it unfolds. But this is another stark reminder: do not drink and drive. This next case is out of Fort Hood because Fort Hood is no stranger to scandal. But this one is massive and deeply disturbing. And this case centers on Army Major Blaine McGraw, an OBGYN who practiced at Carl R. Darnell Army Medical Center. According to court filings and multiple news outlets, the scandal came to a head in mid-October of 2025 when a patient identified only as Jane Doe went in for yet another appointment with McGraw for pelvic pain and uterine concerns. During the exam on October 14, 2025, unbeknownst to Jane Doe, McGraw allegedly pretended to take a phone call, slipped his smartphone into the breast pocket of his coat with the camera facing forward, and then he resumed a pelvic and breast exam while the device recorded the entire interaction without the patient's consent. 3 days later, on October 17, 2025, Army CID investigators called Jane Doe and they asked her to come in for some questions. During that interview, agents told this victim that they had discovered that McGraw, her provider, had been secretly filming multiple female patients during their appointments. They then showed Jane Doe still images from a video taken during her October 14th exam, images that as soon as she saw, she immediately recognized as her own body. That same day, the Army suspended McGraw from patient care, referred to him publicly only as a medical provider, and announced that CID had opened a criminal investigation. Hospital officials also began sending letters to roughly 1,400 of this man's former patients, telling them that they might be impacted and urging them to contact investigators. Now, on the civil side, a major civil suit was filed on November 11, 2025, in the 146th District Court in Bell County, Texas. The 13-page complaint, filed under the pseudonym Jane Doe and led by attorney Andrew Kobos, alleges that McGraw, quote, used his position of trust to sexually exploit, manipulate, and secretly record women under his care, end quote. It accuses him of repeated groping, unnecessary and invasive breast and vaginal exams, and covert video recording during 7 or 8 separate appointments at Darnell. As the story spread, the number of women represented by Kobos' firm climbed rapidly, from a single plaintiff to over 50, that's 50 alleged victims, with additional women represented by other firms and more coming forward almost daily. Legally, what's happening now is a 2-track fight. First, there's the ongoing criminal investigation by Army CID, which could ultimately result in court-martial charges under the UCMJ. We're thinking potentially Article 120, sexual assault, and related offenses, and that's only if prosecutors believe that they can prove non-consensual touching or sexual abuse beyond a reasonable doubt. And the second track is the civil case, which include the Bell County lawsuit against McGraw personally and a growing web of federal tort claims actions aimed at the U.S. government for allegedly ignoring complaints at both Fort Hood and this man's previous posting at Tripler Army Medical Center in Hawaii. Those civil filings accuse Army leadership of, quote, giving cover to a predator in uniform, end quote, by dismissing or laughing off early warnings and allowing him to keep treating patients for years. As of now, reporting indicates that McGraw has been suspended and is under active criminal investigation, but no public record of formal criminal charges, either in a civilian court or via announced court-martial, has been released as of this recording. The Army has said only that multiple investigations are underway and that all patients that this man treated have been notified. And this is all the while McGraw's attorney insists that his client is cooperating and disputes some of the details being shared publicly. True Crime Army, this is shaping up to be one of the biggest sexual assault scandals in Army medical history. And one more thing, because I did forget to say this at the beginning of this episode, all suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Jay Kelly is now playing in select theaters and on Netflix December 5th.
My next story is out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and this one is tragic. Not only is it tragic, it's confusing and it's still filled with so many unanswered questions. It's a case that left both the base and the surrounding Ohio community stunned. In the early morning hours of October 25th, 2025, police received a 911 call about a man lying in the parking lot of the West Milton Government Center. When officers arrived, they discovered 34-year-old Jacob Pritchard, a civilian Air Force employee, dead from what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But the horror didn't end there. Next to Jacob's body, officers noticed the trunk of his vehicle was open. Inside, they found his wife, 33-year-old Jamie Pritchard, also an Air Force civilian employee, strangled to death. Her cause of death was later confirmed as asphyxiation due to strangulation, and this was conducted by the Miami County Coroner's Office. The couple lived in Huber Heights, and they shared 3 young children, all of whom were thankfully safe at the time that they discovered the murder-suicide. Investigators, though, immediately began notifying relatives. But as officers retraced Jacob's steps just before the suicide, another horrifying discovery came to light. At around 2 a.m., roughly 2 hours before he drove his car into the parking lot, Jacob had gone to the Sugar Creek Township apartment of First Lieutenant Jamie Gustitis, a 25-year-old U.S. Air Force Academy graduate assigned to the 711th Human Performance Wing, which is part of the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Pat. Neighbors later reported hearing pounding, breaking glass, and when police entered Lieutenant Gustitis' home, they found her shot. The lieutenant's preliminary cause of death was ruled a gunshot wound to the torso. Now, this case is now classified as a double murder-suicide spanning at least 3 crime scenes: Lieutenant Gustitis' apartment, the Pritchards' home, and the West Milton government parking lot. But even with the timeline established, one major question remains: why? Despite extensive reporting, investigators have not released a motive. Law enforcement has not attributed the murders to workplace conflict, domestic violence involving the lieutenant, or financial motives. Much of what circulates online is speculation, but I will keep you guys posted. Here is what we do know. Jacob Pritchard worked as a civilian financial management specialist for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base's Life Cycle Management Center. Jamie Pritchard, his wife, also worked at Wright-Pat in a civilian role supporting the base. And Lieutenant Gustitis was a rising young officer. She was a USAFA graduate working in military research and human performance optimization. 3 people connected to Wright-Pat, all dead within hours. And tragically, the Pritchards' 3 young children woke up that morning without either parent. This is one of those cases that left the entire community asking the same question. Why did this happen? Even now, close to a month later, investigators have not supplied an answer. And we may never know what drove a civilian father, a husband, and a respected Air Force employee to commit 2 murders before taking his own life. My next story takes us to F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming, a base that has been through an unusually dark and heartbreaking season. And while I've heard rumors and fragments of what's happened here and there, the truth finally came together recently in official reporting. So let's start with the death of Airman Braden Loven. On July 20th, 2025, Airman Loven died from a gunshot wound while on duty with the 90th Security Forces Group. At first, everyone was told the same story. A strange, almost impossible accident had occurred. Witnesses said that a duty belt hit a gun, a holster malfunctioned, and somehow an issued M18 pistol just fired by itself, killing Loven. But when you put multiple people in a room, lies tend to crumble. 2 of the airmen who claimed they saw the accident, Airman First Class Sarbja Badisha and A1C Matthew Rodriguez, well, they eventually admitted that they had lied. Both went on to plead guilty in separate court-martials to making false official statements. And the truth they revealed was devastating. According to the investigation, this was not an accident at all. The shooter was an airman by the name of Marcus White Allen. Marcus White Allen allegedly drew his service weapon, pointed it at Loven's chest in what he called a joke, and then he pulled the trigger. The gun wasn't defective, it wasn't bumped, it wasn't dropped. It fired because the man's finger was on the trigger and the gun was loaded. White Allen panicked after the shooting, immediately instructing the others who were present to tell a different story. He said, say the duty belt hit the gun, say the holster malfunctioned, say anything except for the truth. And for a while, the lie actually worked. In fact, the lie spread so quick and so fast the Air Force Global Strike Command temporarily halted the use of all M18 pistols because they were concerned there might be a widespread weapons malfunction. But when the gun was examined by a military lab, the results came back crystal clear. There were no defects, there was no malfunction. There was nothing wrong with the weapon at all. Once that came to light, all eyes turned to Airman White Allen. Airman White Allen was arrested in early August and charged with involuntary manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and false official statements. But you may have noticed something. This man's name wasn't initially released publicly, which is crazy to me. Reporters had to piece it together weeks later through court-martial records. And then, before the public could even get a full explanation about what happened to Airman Loven, on October 8th, Airman White Allen was found dead in his dorm room. The Air Force has not released his manner of death as of yet. But with his passing, all charges were formally dropped and the proceedings ended. But tragically, Airman Loven's death was just the beginning of a series of losses for this entire unit. Just weeks after Loven was killed, on August 16, 2025, 20-year-old senior airman Joshua Oregon, also assigned to the 90th Security Forces Group, was shot and killed inside of a Cheyenne apartment. Josh was off duty hanging out at a friend's place, a common gathering spot for young airmen to decompose after shifts guarding missile fields. Inside one of the bedrooms, another airman, A1C Jaden Orr, allegedly fired an AK-47 style rifle through a wall. The bullet traveled through the drywall and struck Josh in the neighboring room, killing him instantly. Orr initially told police the shooting was an accident, that he didn't even know that the rifle was loaded. But investigators determined that the gun had been modified and nothing about the shooting looked like a simple mishandling. Orr was subsequently arrested and charged with manslaughter, reckless endangerment, and weapons offenses. But his case is still pending. And then, after this incident, on September 30th, 2025, tragedy struck again. Fort Collins police performed a welfare check at an apartment near Colorado State University. Inside, they found 18-year-old Alyssa Reardon shot to death. And next to her lay her boyfriend, Airman First Class Marcus Jackson. He was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And Jackson was assigned to F.E. Warren. Alyssa and Marcus had been in an on-again, off-again relationship. And although there were no prior 911 calls, Later recovered text messages showed that Alyssa had been trying to distance herself in the days leading up to her death. So in just a matter of weeks, this entire security forces group faced the death of Airman Braden Loven, the death of Airman Marcus White Allen, the shooting death of Senior Airman Joshua Oregon, the murder of Alyssa Reardon, and the suicide of A1C Marcus Jackson. 4 military deaths, 1 civilian death, 5 young lives gone, and 1 Air Force unit is still reeling. The base commander held multiple all-calls addressing mental health, domestic violence stress, and the massive responsibilities placed on young airmen who carry weapons and guard nuclear assets every single day. And listen, just to circle back to Loven's case, the 2 airmen who helped cover up what happened, they did plead guilty and they were punished as follows. A1C Badisha received 30 days of confinement, reduction to the grade of E1, and forfeiture of pay. A1C Rodriguez was sentenced to 10 days of confinement, 15 days of restriction, reduction to E2, and forfeiture of pay. The Air Force, the families, and the entire community continue to mourn these losses.
We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
Ford was built on the belief that the world doesn't get to decide what you're capable of. You do. So ask yourself, can you or can't you? Can you load up a Ford F-150 and build your dream with sweat and steel? Can you chase thrills and conquer curves in a Mustang? Can you take a Bronco to where the map ends and adventure begins? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Ready, set, Ford.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. My next story takes us to Warrensburg, Missouri, just west of Whiteman Air Force Base, and it starts with a 911 call. On Wednesday morning, November 12, 2025, at approximately 7:20 a.m., dispatchers received multiple calls reporting a domestic disturbance in the 700 block of Cedar Drive. A woman and a man are involved in an argument, and the man has a weapon and he's seen running towards Hale Lake Road. The man who was running in the street with a weapon is identified as off-duty Senior Airman Glyzua Ingram, and he's assigned to the 509th Maintenance Group at Whiteman Air Force Base. Now, before police arrive at the scene, there is a neighbor and veteran who's 39 years old, and his name is Tony Barron. By the way, this is a former soldier in the 101st Airborne Division who fought in the Iraq War. Well, Tony steps in. He saw what he believed was a woman in danger, and he tried to intervene. So officers arrive on scene, and Ingram allegedly opens fire. He shot and killed Tony Barron, an unarmed Good Samaritan who was just there trying to de-escalate the situation. Then, as soon as Ingram fires, he fled on foot. Now, police are not able to get him right away, but they establish a perimeter, and at roughly 8:40 a.m., they found Ingram in a wooded area nearby with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was declared dead at the scene. In the immediate aftermath, the Warrensburg Police Department makes it clear that only Tony Barron and Ingram sustained gunshot wounds. No officer or city employees were shot, and police did not fire any shots in return. And sadly, the base at Whiteman responded to the incident. Colonel Joshua Witala of the 509th Bomb Wing issued a statement saying that the community was deeply saddened by the incident and pledged full cooperation with local law enforcement. So here's what we've got in this story. A domestic dispute at dawn, a veteran stepping up to help someone in need, an off-duty airman with a weapon, a neighbor killed, the airman dead by suicide, and by the way, schools and businesses nearby locked down during the incident. In a military community, this kind of case hits different. It's life-ending for someone just trying to do the right thing. Our next story takes us to a quiet neighborhood in Harnett County, North Carolina, where an entire family's life of service ended in sudden, shocking violence. Now, this case does take us a little bit back than just in the fall, okay? On the evening of August 12, 2025, deputies were dispatched to a home on Kentucky Derby Lane in the Trotter Ridge subdivision. And the deputies were responding after a 10-year-old child inside the home dialed 911. The child was reporting that several family members had been shot. When officers arrived, they found 3 people with gunshot wounds: 57-year-old Danny Richards, 54-year-old Sabrina Richards, and 74-year-old Clara Richards. Danny and Sabrina were a married couple, and they were dead at the scene. Clara, who was Danny's mom, was transported to Womack Army Medical Center, and she later died of her injuries. Well, Danny and Sabrina were both U.S. Army veterans. The Army has confirmed that Danny served from 1987 to 2017, which is a full 20 years, and Sabrina served from 2002 to 2017, and both deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan in the mid-2000s. Danny's mother, Clara, though not a veteran, was part of the family that had built a lifetime of service, faith, community support, and generosity. After this incident was reported, deputies state that the shooter was a 15-year-old nephew and the grandson of Clara Richards. He left the scene in the family's truck after the shooting, and the vehicle was later found in a wooded area near NC 87 and Nursery Road. The teenager was taken into custody without incident. Initially charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, prosecutors later added a 3rd count when Clara passed away. Friends and neighbors who knew Danny and Sabrina described them as the definition of selfless service. People who took in this very nephew to give him a better life, who fed the homeless, and who served their country and community without fanfare. This investigation is ongoing, but on November 15th, ABC 11 reported that newly released details give at least a little glimpse as to what happened during this incident. Everything allegedly went down over school clothes. That's right. Danny Richards and his 15-year-old nephew apparently were arguing over school clothes. The teen then barged up the stairs and his uncle followed behind him. That's when the nephew took out a gun and shot and killed his uncle. The nephew then went downstairs and shot and killed his aunt and then turned the weapon on his grandmother. Of course, learning more of the details make the scenario even more shocking, and the community continues to be stunned. The 15-year-old's name has not been released, so I have a feeling that he might be charged as a juvenile. But I will keep you all posted if I hear anything else about this case. This final case goes back more than 50 years to 1974, when 18-year-old Tanya Gardini, a San Diego University freshman, was sexually assaulted and murdered in her dorm room. Tanya's killer was 21-year-old Navy sailor Ellis Handy. This Navy sailor eventually confessed and pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. This man has been in prison ever since, but his case was recently in the headlines because this year, 2025, he had his 25th parole hearing. Many held their breath wondering if this man would be paroled. But guess what? Parole was denied. The board noted that Handy, after all these years, 51 if you're counting, is still minimizing his actions. Assaulting and killing a woman he didn't know. He still does not fully accept responsibility, and he does not acknowledge the sexual nature of his crime. You see, during his hearing this year, Handy claimed that he was in the dormitories to go meet up with a friend. But when that friend wasn't around back in the day, he saw Tanya and entered her room uninvited. He tried to put a move on her to have sex with her, but she pushed him away and began to scream. Handy said he simply panicked after Tanya refused his sexual advances. I mean, what this man was expecting is beyond me. Mind you, the records do show that Handy strangled Tanya, stabbed her with a pencil, and then ejaculated on her body. Well, Handy continued to claim that he panicked because she was white and he was black. And that's when he strangled her until she was dead. But instead of just leaving after he killed her, he then stabbed her with a pencil and then ejaculated on her body to make it look like she was attacked by a madman. He claims he was not actually a madman. What in the world? So what? What are you talking about? He basically says he staged it to look like he was a madman. Okay, first of all, the fact that you had an erection at that point and were able to ejaculate is crazy, and that you are a madman. Anyway, so just FYI, because he ejaculated on the victim, it was charged as a sexual crime. But to this day, Handy does not see it that way. So parole was denied. He will be eligible for parole again in 2028. True Crime Army, these cases are heavy. They're tragic and they're senseless, and they remind us how quickly life can change. Whether you're on duty helping someone on the side of the road, sitting in your home, visiting a friend, or just trying to live your life. Listen, if you or someone you know needs help, like you're suffering mentally, please reach out. Do not injure other people and do not injure yourself. Talk to someone, intervene, call for backup. There is help available. And most importantly, let's all take care of each other because life is so fragile. Thank you so much, True Crime Army, for listening here. With that, I pray that you all have a very safe holiday. Military Murder is a Mama Margot production. The music was created by Ty-Ops. Until next time, remember, you never really know what someone is capable of, so remain vigilant always. You have a fabulous holiday, and I'll keep digging to bring you another military murder story next week.
Mama's working on her podcast. I don't want to.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.